Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is the Lightrone from BYROBOT. Features a 25 milliwatt camera and VTX, hoops for your protection. Inside is an LED that changes colors, a monitor on the race band with a DVR. It has altitude hold mode, 4 speed selections, it does flips, and that's where you change your color. This has battery telemetry. It does come with a whip antenna, a 220 milliamp battery with the MCPX connector. You get extra props, I only broke one, and USB charging for your battery. Before we get into the flight, I must excuse the flight footage a little bit. I have banged this guy around, so it has some wobbles. I'm used to flying vehicles like this, on a controller like this, so you'll probably fly better than I do. So this little package is really tailored for someone that seems to have an interest in getting started in the FPV hobby and drones, and could make for a really good present for a young person or really just anyone starting out. As far as the remote goes, I said in the quick roll that I typically fly with a much larger hobby grade remote, and typically I fly with my pinching of my fingers, and this one is really made for thumbs, and that also contributes to my lack of skill in the particular flight footage that you saw there. I will say that it does feel good. It's not slippery, it's not hard to hold or anything like that. We are affixed with just one angle on the monitor, so you won't be adjusting that up or down, and the viewing angle is relatively small, so you're going to need to have it squarely in front of your face, but I really didn't have any problems seeing the screen. I did think it was interesting that it's not only a widescreen layout, but that it records in widescreen as well. One tip about connecting the screen to your machine: when you turn it on, you'll see this screen each and every time. It doesn't go straight to the camera. If you go down using the channel button and go to camera, it does go to the camera at that point, but it doesn't start out at the last band you were on. It starts at this one all the time. So what you oftentimes will need to do is go back here, we'll go up, and I'll plug this little guy in. You can see I've switched the LED to blue, but let's go ahead and hit enter so we search. And there we go, we have our image and it's all set up. Now, one thing about the antenna, I really like what they did here. Unfortunately, there's a little tiny ball that goes on the top, and it kind of gives it a unique look. But I lost that ball in one of my crashes. So you might want to, if you want to keep that ball, if it's special to you, take a little glue and stick it there on top. You might want to think twice about that, because that could make getting a new camera, if this one happens to die or break or something of that nature, putting a new one in there might be a bit of a challenge. Hopefully you can see there on the screen. You can see all my computer setup stuff. You can see around here a little bit. Let's go ahead and change the light. I'm going to show you that. That's again on this button right over here. So if we change the light, oh, I forgot, don't have the remote on. So of course with the remote on it stops flashing, but let's change the light. Like I said, got pink, white, red, yellow, green, and back to a light blue, and then the dark blue that I had it on. So we've got our takeoff and hold button. I'm not going to use that right now. When you hit that button and it beeps twice, that indicates it's not in altitude hold. But if you hit that button again, you get the long tone, and now you're in altitude hold mode. When you're altitude hold, you want to use the takeoff and landing button down here. That button does not work when you're not in altitude hold mode. The reset button is to recalibrate, so if you use that, you want to have it nice and flat on a surface, not with the battery sticking out like I have there. And then you hold the reset button, and the machine will flash. We have trim buttons, so if it drifts one way or another, you can use those trim buttons to counter that. So if it's moving left, use the right trim. If it's moving forward, use the back trim. We see the 3 speeds that I showed you in the max. Now, I flew it on the second speed. Once your skills develop, you can continue to move up, and that will allow you to grow further. This is not a speaker in the back. That is probably for heat dissipation from the electronic components inside. It does charge with typical USB connector here on the side. And it doesn't take that long to charge, actually. Let's see, what else? Let's go back and let's look at the display a little bit, actually. So you can see the channel that we're on, or the band. We can see up here that it shows a little film, and then our time, and then our signal, and that we've got an SD card in it. If we go back into the menu, you can go right to the camera. You can look at all of the stuff that's on the SD card, and then the settings. I'll go down to the settings to show you that real quick. There's not a whole lot here, but you can definitely change the backlight level, the language, and then it's got product info. You can format your card. If your card's giving you fits and it's not working right, you might want to format it. If you've tinkered with the settings and you just can't get anything to work, a factory restore might be the ticket to get you back on track. So if you're here and you just hit the back button, it doesn't do anything. But if you're in camera, now that we've got it tuned, it should jump right to our channel. There we go. And then if we just hit enter now, you'll see that red dot next to the little camera. That's indicating that you're recording. And so that it's recording your flight footage to your DVR, and you can share it with family and friends. If you do want to get better reception, you saw it flying around the center pole, or the center part of my house. You know, I'm going through walls there. You can improve that signal by getting a circular polarized antenna like this. Let me turn this off, and I'll show you the connector on here. So there is no pin in that connector. The pin is in the antenna, and you'll want to match that with an antenna like this one. I did not use this in the flight. I used what came with it. But if you want to improve your reception a little bit, maybe get a little farther away, maybe more walls between you and the vehicle, circular polarized will definitely help out. The last thing I should cover is the battery telemetry, which is a cool feature. Oftentimes with these little machines, we just fly until they won't fly anymore, and that can sometimes be difficult on the batteries. The remote will beep when it senses that the battery's getting low. You don't have any settings where you can change when it beeps and how low the battery gets, but it does give us a nice warning that the battery's low and you should come in for a landing. It's not as though you need to land immediately though. You don't need to, if you're in altitude hold mode, you don't immediately need to hit the landing mode, and if you're flying around in the other mode, you don't immediately need to throttle down. You've got a good few seconds, say 15 seconds or so, to bring it closer to you and then to land it. As I said in the quick roll, I did break a prop, and that was kind of a perfect storm. You'd look at this and think, how did he break a prop? Well, I was flying it around in the basement where we have some unfinished portion of our basement, and I had kind of a perfect storm where I banged it into the water heater, and then when it flipped over, I hit right on the corner of a pipe coming out of the water heater on the ground, and it broke a prop off. But not a big deal, because they do furnish us with others. That's why you see my props in the rear don't match, is because I broke this green one. And the props are pretty sturdy, really. I don't have much of a problem with them. You know, they'll stress, and if you bend one, just bend it back a little bit, get it in good shape, kind of look at it, and put it back on your vehicle if you took it off. And just be careful when you put them on vehicles. This is kind of the same for all the brush motors. You can push the bottom of the can and the motor out if you're pressing down too hard. So I would encourage you, when you're putting props back on, to get your fingernails or a screwdriver or something flat under here as you're pressing this down, because these props do go on firmly, and we need them to, because there's nothing else outside of pressure fitting the prop onto the motor shaft. Flight time on this is going to be in the neighborhood of 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes, which is a good long flight time, and that's due to this machine being quite light. The materials they've used are robust. As I said previously, I banged this around a lot before I even started filming, just kind of getting comfortable with it and getting used to all of its different feature set, because this is a bit different for me, but this is a perfectly acceptable place to get started before you want to jump into maybe something that's a little bit bigger and a little bit more expensive and requires more equipment like chargers and radios and goggles and things of that nature. So if you've got someone in your life that is looking at getting into drones, this is a really good starter. And because you fly this one inside, you can fly all the time. You don't have to worry about the weather being nice. So if you got any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please leave those in the section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.